Hello folks, how are we doing? So we're going to do a live stream on, this is all about connectors. We talked about soldering last week, and I thought I'd do one about connectors anyway, why not, indeed. Right, let's get started then. So, the alternative to soldering, well, is it? You know, a lot of people, and feel free to leave me as many comments as you want on this. It is a bone of contention. This, you know, whether we. I'm trying to get myself in the. There we go. I'm in. It is a bone of contention. Do we really, do we really go for these connectors and stuff? And is it the way forward? You know, we hear about this talk of, ordinary standard connectors used instead of soldering, and then unfortunately we've got these horrible, detestful things as well. I'm gonna try and show it you on my screen. That's half of it. Oops, there we go. I'll get it in there in a minute. That's half of it anyway. There we go. That's the one half. And then we got the other half of it here, which is that's the other half of it. I'm sure you've heard of these things. Used to be called in the old days. They used to be called Scotch locks. Now they're a bit more posher. They're called insulation displacement connectors. I mean, what's your feelings? What's your thoughts on these things, guys and girls? Let us know. Drop us some comments. Let me know what you think. You know, it would be great to have your thoughts on it. But what I did was I thought I'd do some sort of run through on the use of connectors and what are the right things to use and what not to use as well. So first things first, what tools should we need to be fitting these types of connectors? And here's a selection of them on cables. I've done a few of them here. There's a heat shrink one. There's a cool seal one. There it is there. That's a cool seal one. So let's have a look at them anyway in a bit more detail. And I'm going to do a little video on joining wires and what have you, and splice connections as well. But what ratchet crimp should we be going for? That's the question. The question is, what type of ratchet crimp should we be going for? Are you aware that there's various types of ratchet crimp tools out there? That there is actually one for. Let me go back to my main screen. There is actually one for. I don't know whether you're aware, but that's actually a crimp tool for heat shrink and the cool seal ones. Yeah. And then you've got obviously your standard crimp, and the reason they're different is because they've got a different amount of. I don't know whether you can see that or not on the screen. Very hard to demonstrate. There we go. They've got two lots of teeth, whereas this one's only got like your one set of teeth or one set of grips, should we say, to grip on. And that's because on a heat shrink you don't need to go down the two levels. You only need to go on the one. So that's one of the reasons why we should be using the right type of crimp tool for the job. So if you're actually using this type of crimp tool on a heat shrink, then no, you shouldn't be that's not the right one. You should be using this one for the heat shrink. Why use ratchet crimp tools? Well, it gives you some consistency with your install. You should, it gives you the consistency. If you're using just an ordinary style sort of grip one where there's no ratchet involved, like so, it's not going to do as good a job, and it's not consistent. And like I say, you need a crimp tool for each type of connector. And as I say, that I've already mentioned it already. The heat shrink crimp tool is different to the standard insulated connector tool. There's some examples of some of the crimp tools that are, sorry, not crimp tools, but crimps that are out there. You've got your uninsulated. You tend to see those on OEM work. If you want to try and make your job as OEM as possible, and that's original equipment manufacturer, so make it look as much like the car, then that's really the thing to go for. That is the one to go for. That is the the type of connector you should use, but you should have a proper crimp to go with that. Then we've got the insulated. Well, you've got varying sizes. So you've got insulated, and then you've got heat shrink, which is the light blue one. I believe that as I've been as it's been instructed to me, a good friend of mine, Tim from the mobile centre, I'll give you his details. He actually sort of recommends that the clearer the insulation is on the heat shrink, the better it is. We've got some cool seal connectors there as well. They don't require any heat, but they can seal, so they're water resistant. And then you've got ordinary standard insulated crimp tools. And at the very top there, I don't know whether you can see it, that's a picture of the insulation displacement connector that our friends BMW recommend us to use. Not my cup of tea at all. It's a crimp tool for the right connector. It's and then it's a connector for the right type of gauge cable. So red is for 0.5 millimeters to 1.5 millimeters. Blue is for 1.5 to 2.5 millimeters, and then you've got your 4 to 6 millimeters for the yellow. So you've got here's my selection here. So there's your red. I've got a red one with a nice thin cable on it. There we go. There's the red one. Can't see that very clearly, so let me just go back to my little what's it screen. So there you go. There's the red connector. Whoops, it disappears when it goes onto the. Oh, it's a floating cable. It's a floating connector. Then you've got the blue one, slightly thicker gauge cable, and then the yellow one is for the thicker gauge cable, as you can see there. And it's the right connector for the right application. Ring terminals, making sure that it's the right size to go with what you're connecting it to. So it's all about preparation, making sure that you're the right connectors for the job. So I'm going to leave you with this little connectors video. So hi folks, this is a quick sort of rundown from our conversations with connectors. So we'll just go through some of the connectors that are out there, and obviously my thoughts on them as well. So first things first, let's put us down onto the board. We talked about the crimp tool, using the right crimp tool for the right job. You can see that here I've got a quite a cool piece of kit here. This is from Blue Point, and I know there are manufacturers that make these. But this crimp tool is really, really special because it allows you to swap the jaws over so that you could use the same crimp tool for different jobs. So this is a crimp tool for using with an insulated connector. This is the ones that we suggested are used for OEM. The reason they're used for OEM is because they look like OEM. So if you're trying to make a covert installation or trying to make it look like it's as much as part of the car as possible, then this is the type of connector that's normally used on a factory vehicle. The ones that we normally see commonly are these ones here, which is your sort of insulated connector, and you can see that I've got the jaws for that. So all I do is take the jaws out and swap them over like so. So that's one crimp tool. Yeah, there is another crimp tool I've got here, and this is the one that's really important nowadays because people talk to me about these crimp tools. This crimp tool is actually used for heat shrink connectors. So it's basically, the idea behind it is, as you can see, rather with a standard crimp tool, you've got two lots of jaws. On a crimp tool for a heat shrink connector, you only need to crimp this metal part here. And it's the same with these ones that I introduced to you earlier. This is the cold seal one, and that only needs to be crimped there onto the metal, because the only part that you're crimping is you're actually just crimping the metal part, the tin part of the connector, tin and copper of the connector, through to hold the cable base. The rest of it's done by heat.
The difference is with the insulated type connector is, as you can see, is when you do crimp that type of connection, you can see that not only is the crimp tool crimping the metal part in the centre, it's also crimping the plastics. So it's really important to make sure that if you have got this type of connector, that you're using it the right way as well. There are a certain way that you use these crimp tools, and it's also, you can see that it leaves an indicator on it to show you that you're using the right part of the crimp tool to do the job. Okay, so that's your crimp tools. We did want to look at connectors as well. Now, here they are. This is it. This is the insulation displacement connector. It's not a real favourite of mine. I think it's going backward rather than forward. I really don't know what to say about it, but it is one of the manufacturers, that is in the UK, that is BMW, have said that that's the connector that they want used on their installations. My opinion is no. I think I'd much rather use a crimp style connector or even soldering on a job. But I guess that the reason that these have come into fruition is because they've had so many problems with people soldering on vehicles and using connectors and using the connectors incorrectly. Obviously, by using maybe the incorrect tool, where they've used just like a non-ratchet style, like similar to the ones you see at the bottom, the strippers here, or you've used a non-style where it's just pressure that is the only way of ensuring that it's connected. Whereas that's the thing about these ratchet tools, is when you do ratchet, there is you have a known level of pressure that you're putting on that connector. So, going back to these connectors, so we said about the gauges of the cable. Well, what you've got here is, as you said, as it says on the demonstration on our slides, the smaller cable is for red, the blue connector is for the medium-sized cable, around about 1.5 to 2.5 millimeters, and then the larger one is for the larger cable, larger gauge cable, like so. Common things that I do see, which is I don't agree with, is where you'll get a situation where, for instance, someone is using this type of gauge cable, and what they've done is they haven't got the red one. So what they do is they bend over the cable like so, so that it fits the blue one. Now, to me, that isn't really. I'm up for comments. See what you what do you think, chaps? Chapesses, do you think that that's right? Do you think that's correct, everyone? I don't think it is. Really, what you should be doing is the right gauge cable for the connector. And basically, we do seem to use this gauge rather than this medium-sized gauge or even the thicker gauge. It's normally these that we're using on devices that we're installing into vehicles. So really, it should be the right crimp tool and the right connector for the job. So we're going to go with this one. We're going to put this one on here. So we'll strip the cable back. Only need about 10 millimeters or so of cable. That's about is that about 1/4 inch, guys? I'm not sure. So around about that length. Push the connector through, and then using the crimp tool, make sure you use it the right way around for the connector. So we're looking to use the red one here. We do need to make sure that it's the right way around. So we want the marker on the actual metal end of the connector, on the tin end of the connector, like so. You can see as you crimp, that leaves a mark on the cable, and you can see then that the marking on the crimp that's left is correct for that type of connector. It's nice and tight. You can do a little pull test to make sure, and there's that connector on there. Moving over to medium-sized gauge cable. We'll strip that one back. Again, around about 5 to 10 millimeters of cable. Strip that back. Straighten through. And we'll put that connector through there. Again, just so that it protrudes through, make sure it goes through. And using the crimp tool the right way around. There it is. It's the middle one for the blue. And that's left a marking on the crimp. Pull test. That's perfectly fine. And there's crimp number 3. Going on to the larger gauge cable. The same applies. We strip that back. Twist. Yellow over yellow. Sits in snug. Crimp tool over. Always the more difficult one, it requires much more pressure. And as you can see, that's crimped it to the right level. You've got a good sound crimp on the wire. Pressure pull, that's a perfect crimp. Okay, so those are all the crimp. There's your crimps there. And leave those there. So we'll move on to butt connectors as well. So you can see the connectors that we've got here. These are ones I mentioned previously. So you've got a standard butt connector, which is the ones that the insulated ones that we've used here. So we'll just do a standard connection with this connector. So you're going to use the right gauge again. So this time again, same sort of thing. You've got to make sure it's the right way around for the connector. So we're going to go over the edge this side. That's in. Just make sure that it's through. Yeah, we're pull testing that. That's fine. And then we'll go through to the other side. Not quite in properly. Push that through. Again, making sure that you've got the connector, the crimps all the right way around. Always no harm putting another crimp tool over it again. So you can see that crimp is nice and solid, and we've got a good connector on there. The only issue with this is, as you say, you can see that the water can seep in. So it's not ideal for a waterproof situation. You're never going to get any waterproofing off that type of connector. So we look at the other two types of connectors there. So I'll just put that crimp on the way now. So we're looking at this one now where we're using heat shrink crimp. Again, it's the same. It's got the right sort of gauges on it: 0.5 to 1, 1.5 to 2.5, and 4 to 6. Reds, blues and yellows. So they have the same gaugings as what you get on a standard connector. So we'll strip that back. So I'm going to use the heat one. The great thing, as you can see with the heat shrink connector, is you can see that the cable is visible, and you can see that it's gone all the way through. So I'm going to get my crimp tool. No need to actually crimp. And this is the other thing about using the wrong type of crimp tool. If I was to use this type of crimp tool here now, yeah, where it leaves a very clear marking in the crimp tool, in the crimp, it will mark this more sensitive plastic, and that might expose the tin inside, the tin connector inside. So it's really not a good idea to use to use the right type of crimp tool for the job. The other thing that you'll notice as well is as I say, is it will crimp both places. It will crimp it twice when there's no real need to crimp the outer plastic, because the outer plastic is going to be heated down in a moment. So strip the cable back again. Use the crimp tool again. Once you've crimped it, we'll check to see if it will do a quick pull test. That's fine. So what we do now is we'll use our soldering iron to gently heat up the heat shrink to the desired level. And the great thing about having heat shrink like this is that you can visibly then see cable, so you don't get into a situation where you get it so hot that you're actually overheating the cable insulation or anything. But by getting it the right sort of level, you can actually turn this joint into a waterproof joint. It's now sealing the plastic against each other. The plastic from the heat shrink is now sealing against the cable. So it's now got to a stage now where it's now sort of, and you can see now that that is actually water resistant connection there. So that's your heat shrink. The other one that I have here is the what we call the cool seal connector. The difference is with this is it doesn't require any heat. Instead, what it's got is an anaerobic compound in each end of the cable. And so what you do is by So what you do is you feed the cable in to the connector, and we use our heat shrink crimp tool. Same sort of thing, you only have to crimp it once over there. And the same thing this end. Like so. There's my crimp. And that action there. And you can see that what happens is that you see how that anaerobic compound has now sealed itself and will seal itself. What it does is, over a period of around about 48 hours or so, this actually seals itself around the cable. The anaerobic compound seals itself around the cable, so there's no need to heat shrink it. And there's another crimp, like so. Thanks very much for watching.
Crikey, that did. Sorry about that. That was excruciating as much as it was for you, probably as it was for me. Sorry it took so long. You don't realise how long these videos are until you're actually in them. Hope you took something away from it. I know where Douglas said, "Where's that crimper from?" It's actually from mobilecentre.co.uk. They also do these. I don't know whether you can see that or not. These cool seal connectors, which is basically they've got like a. It's hard to explain, but they've got like a seal inside that goes inside. That's inside. It's like an anaerobic compound. Yes. So the core seal connector, it's waterproof, so you can use that under the bonnet. And the cool thing about it is you don't need a heat shrink. You don't need any heat to fit that. So if you're in an environment where you can't get your soldering iron in, or you can't get some heat in, sensitive place, for instance, it's an ideal way to do a bit of a quick repair on a vehicle, or just doing it somewhere awkward. We also didn't mention this, but these heat shrink connectors here that I can, let me just go back to the other screen. So I'll go back to this screen, so you might be able to see a bit better. Yeah, that's it. So it's a reducing connector. I don't know whether you can see that or not. So it goes from blue to red. So they also do yellow to blue. This is the type of heat shrink as well that's one of the best, because it's completely transparent, and that's the great thing about it, because it's more or less is transparent. Because it's so transparent, it gives when it heats up and everything, it seals a lot better, and you can see the cable inside a lot clearer and everything as well. That's about it for this week. Thanks ever so much for joining. I'm going to cut you short there because it's now 7:30 and I haven't had my tea yet. I'm absolutely famished. Thanks very much for watching. Next week, I've got a couple of ideas for next week. But if you've got any ideas about what we should have a chat about, and what you want me to have a chat about, then please let me know. Please get in touch, and we'll do a video on that. We have got in plan to do some for DVS, because I know that's literally a burning subject. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about anything else, and also your COVID stories as well. That'd be really great. Okay, lovely. Thanks for watching, guys and girls. Hope you're well, everybody. Stay safe. Bye.